Just to play at a level that gives you a chance to win in this league, with those circumstances, you have to be all out, and we're not.
Jeffrey William Van Gundy, born January 19th, 1962. The NBA is a league where greatness is often measured by championships. Coaches who manage to claim the elusive title are immortalized in basketball history, while those who fall short are frequently left to grapple with the questions of what if. Jeff Van Gundy, a name synonymous with discipline and basketball IQ, falls into the latter category. Despite an impressive coaching career with both the New York Knicks and Houston Rockets, Van Gundy never captured a championship, leaving many to wonder why one of the brightest minds in the game couldn't reach the NBA's ultimate goal. His fiery personality resonated with players and fans alike, and his teams were always well prepared and tough to beat. From his iconic moment holding on to Alonzo Mourning's leg during a Knicks-Heat brawl, to leading an 8-seeded Knicks team to an NBA Finals, Van Gundy's career was marked by memorable moments and overachieving teams. His ability to maximize his rosters and his commitment to defensive excellence earned him widespread respect, even if his teams often fell short on the sport's biggest stage. Yet Van Gundy's coaching tenure spanned an era dominated by some of the greatest teams in NBA history, competing against dynasties like Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls, Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant's Los Angeles Lakers, and Tim Duncan's San Antonio Spurs. Van Gundy faced seemingly insurmountable odds. Even when he had talented rosters, his teams were often derailed by injuries, bad luck, or an inability to generate enough defensive firepower in critical moments. His near misses and frustrations on the sideline made his inability to win a championship one of the most puzzling stories in basketball history. After stepping away from coaching in 2007, Van Gundy seamlessly transitioned into a remarkable broadcasting career. As an analyst, he brought the same passion, intelligence, and sharp wit that defined his coaching, offering fans a fresh perspective on the game. His honest critiques and humorous takes have made him a fan favorite and a respected voice in basketball. However, the absence of a championship from his coaching resume remains a glaring omission. In today's feature, we'll explore 3 reasons Jeff Van Gundy as a coach's growth was stunted and he ultimately never won an NBA title, while also reflecting on his underrated impact on and off the floor as one of the more underrated commentators ever. What happened? Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Jeff Van Gundy began his NBA journey as an assistant coach with the New York Knicks in 1989, working his way up to the head coaching position in 1996. He quickly established himself as a tactician, known for his defensive schemes and ability to motivate players. In 1999, Van Gundy led the Knicks to an improbable NBA Finals run as the 8th seed, a feat that has never been replicated. Despite their grit, the Knicks fell to the San Antonio Spurs. In 2003, Van Gundy took over as head coach of the Houston Rockets with superstars like Yao Ming and Tracy McGrady. Expectations were high, but injuries and playoff disappointments defined his tenure. After stepping away from coaching in 2007, Van Gundy transitioned into broadcasting, where he became one of the more insightful voices in the sport. But whatever happened to that championship? Stunt number 1, coaching in eras of dominance. One of the biggest obstacles Jeff Van Gundy faced during his coaching career was the sheer dominance of all-time great teams in the NBA. The late 90s and early 2000s were defined by some of the most iconic dynasties in basketball history, and Van Gundy's teams often found themselves on the wrong side of those matchups. In the Eastern Conference, Van Gundy's New York Knicks were consistently overshadowed by Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls. With 6 championships in 8 years, the Bulls were nearly unbeatable during this era, featuring not only Michael Jordan, but also Hall of Famers like Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman. The Knicks' hard-nosed, defensive-minded roster matched up well with the Chicago Bulls on paper, but in reality, they lacked the superstar firepower necessary to overcome Jordan's brilliance. Even during Jordan's brief retirement, the Knicks failed to capitalize, losing heartbreaking playoff series to rising teams like the Indiana Pacers and Miami Heat. Van Gundy's signature achievement as a coach came in the lockout-shortened 98-99 season when he guided the 8th-seeded Knicks to the NBA Finals. This historic run highlighted his ability to maximize his team's potential as the Knicks upset higher-seeded opponents with gritty defense and clutch performances. Led by Tim Duncan and David Robinson, the Spurs were at the start of a 2-decade reign as one of the most successful franchises in NBA history. Without Patrick Ewing, who was sidelined due to an injury, the Knicks were simply outmatched and lost the series in 5 games. Van Gundy's move to Houston in 2003 brought similar challenges. The Western Conference at the time was dominated by teams like the Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant Los Angeles Lakers, who won 3 straight championships from 2000 to 2002, and the Spurs, who maintained their dominance throughout the decade. These juggernauts consistently stood in the way of Van Gundy's teams, making it nearly impossible to advance deep into the playoffs. Ultimately, Van Gundy's coaching career coincided with an era where individual brilliance and team dominance reigned supreme. His defensive schemes and tactical brilliance kept his teams competitive, but he often lacked the talent or timing to overcome the historic teams of his era.
One thing that Michael will not forget or forgive was the con man comment by Jeff Van Gundy.
Stunt number 2, injuries to star players. Another key reason for Van Gundy's lack of a championship was the persistent injuries to his star players, particularly during his time in Houston. The Rockets built their team around 2 of the most talented players in the league, Yao Ming and Tracy McGrady. Both were generational talents capable of leading a team to a championship, but their careers were plagued by injuries. In the 2004-05 season, the Rockets won 51 games and were considered a dark horse contender. With Yao's dominance in the paint and McGrady's scoring versatility, Houston seemed poised to make a deep playoff run. However, both players battled injuries throughout the playoffs. This lack of continuity proved fatal, and the team was eliminated in the first round by the Dallas Mavericks in 7 games, despite McGrady's heroic efforts in the series. The following seasons followed a similar disappointing pattern. Yao suffered reoccurring foot and knee injuries that limited his availability, while McGrady dealt with chronic back and shoulder issues that gradually robbed him of his explosiveness. By 2007, the 2 stars were rarely on the court together at full strength. Despite Van Gundy's defensive schemes and ability to maximize the rest of the roster, no coach can overcome losing their top 2 players during critical stretches of the season. Injuries derailed what might have been a championship-caliber team. Stunt number 3, limited offensive creativity. While Jeff Van Gundy's defensive acumen was widely praised, his offensive strategies were often criticized for being too rigid and predictable. His teams excelled in grinding out low-scoring games and suffocating opponents with defensive intensity, but this approach often struggled in the playoffs, where offensive versatility and adaptability are crucial for success. In New York, Van Gundy's Knicks relied heavily on isolation plays and physicality, which fit the gritty nature of the 1990s NBA, but lacked the dynamic scoring needed against elite NBA defenses. Without a consistent go-to scorer capable of creating his own shot under pressure, the Knicks struggled in critical playoff moments. Their 1999 NBA Finals run was a testament to their toughness and resilience, but offensively, they lacked the fire to contend with the San Antonio Spurs' efficient scoring, led by Tim Duncan and David Robinson. When Van Gundy moved to Houston, the Rockets' offense often centered around Yao Ming in the post and Tracy McGrady in isolation plays. While both players were immensely talented, this approach became predictable, especially in the playoffs. Opposing defenses knew how to key in on Houston's primary options, and the rest of the team lacked a diversified offensive system to counter adjustments. The Rockets rarely pushed the pace, relying instead on a deliberate half-court offense that could bog down in high-pressured situations. Critics argued that Van Gundy's adherence to a slower defense-first philosophy sometimes stifled his team's offensive creativity. In an era where teams like the Spurs and Lakers demonstrated the value of balanced, dynamic offensive systems, Van Gundy's approach seemed outdated. While his defensive genius kept his teams competitive, his inability to innovate offensively may have prevented them from reaching the next level and competing for a championship. All in all, Jeff Van Gundy's coaching career is a tale of near misses and tough circumstances. He had the basketball IQ, passion, and defensive acumen to win a championship, but factors like the dominance of all-time great teams, injuries to key players, and limited offensive creativity held him back. Despite the lack of a title, Van Gundy's impact on basketball remains profound. His teams were always disciplined, competitive, and respected by opponents. His transition to broadcasting has only enhanced his legacy as he brings humor, honesty, and deep insights to every game he calls. He may have never hoisted the Larry O'Brien Trophy, but his contributions to the game, both as a coach and commentator, ensure his place as one of basketball's most respected figures. But for these reasons, Jeff Van Gundy wasn't able to win one. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.